We've enhanced our equipment, we've enhanced our operational knowledge in different types of special hazards. But from the staffing and resources of personnel and equipment, it's still back antiquated.
From Los Angeles, this is Code 3, the Firefighters podcast, hosted by award-winning journalist Scott Orr. Code 3 features interviews with leading members of the fire service, discussing firefighting strategy, tactics, and other topics you need to know more about. Now, here's Scott.
That's right, and I will not let Parkinson stop me. Thank you for joining me again here on Code 3. This is the show that gives you all the firefighting information you need in about 20 minutes. Let's get started. Just about every firefighter enjoys reading about the experiences of other members of the brotherhood, and that's why books written by veteran firefighters are so popular. Plus, they give potential new recruits valuable real-world information on how to get on the job. My guest today is Chief Tarnowski. He's back on Code 3 today to talk about his new book, Firefighting in the 21st Century. It's part memoir, part textbook, and it's all interesting. This is Chief Tarnowski's third book. Stan has served as a fire chief, 911, and EMA director in Union City, Georgia. He began his career in 1975 with the Boston Logan International Airport Fire Department. Stan's been a deputy and suppression chief at the Georgia State Fire Academy and chief of training at the Henry County Fire Department. And he is currently the president of Firesafe Consulting Group. And Chief Tarnowski joins me now. Welcome back to Code 3.
Hey, Scott, it's great to be back with you. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. You've got another book out. It's called Firefighting in the 21st Century. This book covers a lot of ground.
Yeah, God put it on my heart to put some things in writing. I've basically been journaling over the years, some of the, I think, more important things that came to mind that may be important for others down the road. So God really blessed me and created me for a purpose-driven life. And I think all of us that serve in public safety, we're created that way because it's a very unique person that takes on this kind of responsibility, accountability, serve community, and serve each other as humans. I just felt that was an honor and a privilege to be able to be selected to serve in the capacities that I did serve in, from firefighter to fire chief and a few other things in between. So I wanted to put some of these notes down in writing that I had in my head, my heart. God just, here it goes. So I come up with 30 chapters, just touching on some of the basics that I think that individuals, I wrote it actually for all phases of people wanting to get on the job, on the fire service and EMS, all the way through people working the job and then actually coming up to retirement.
Let me ask you about that. Who is this book really written for?
Yeah, that's a great question, Scott. I appreciate that because I felt that somebody that's wanting to get on the job, give them a look at what they're facing. And the thing was, I started back in the early 70s in 1975 and coming up through over 30 years of serving. But this book is written for all generations, basically, within that 30, 40-year period of time. Because I'll have people come up to me and ask me, hey, Chief, what do I need to have my son get on the fire service and get in the job? And I'll say, look, back in the day, it was, do you know anybody that's on the job in your city? You can communicate with them and see if they can point you in the right direction. So I wrote the book for people that are interested in getting on the fire service. I also wrote it for the people that are on the job 5 years in, 10 years in, even 20 years in, coming up to officership, and then also to the chief's office. So I try to touch a little bit on each aspect of the position, from firefighter through fire officer 1, 2, and 3, assistant chief, deputy chief, chief, and kind of a conglomerate in between. There's a little bit for everybody, I think, in there. And I was fortunate and blessed to be able to serve in multiple capacities. So I just wanted to share that with people. And if they can get something from it that helps them in their career, either the beginning or through it and towards the end, then, it's been a blessing for that to happen.
Yeah, I've never been a firefighter, but I've been a journalist. I've been around for a while. And when I read this, a lot of it, what I was saying was, yeah, I remember that, and I remember that too. It seems like some of this is about reminiscing and some of it's about teaching.
That's an accurate overview of what I tried to accomplish there, because it's a personal overview of what I've done in my career, but it also touches on some of the things that will go on a day-to-day basis that fire personnel, EMS, public safety personnel have to be attuned to and astute to, at planning and training and executing their operational plan. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to do, is to be able to share a little bit of personal plus the overview of the organizational structure and what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis.
I noticed that there's a feel for the old days, and then you compare it to how things are done now. For instance, the section on what a fire chief used to do versus what he has to do these days is very striking.
Yeah, it's I could have went on and on and on, but it's truly, when I think about back in the 70s, what chiefs were doing then, and some of those things things that I saw take place, the chiefs thought they had a lot going on, but compared to what actually goes on now in the chief's office are totally different things. It's a 360-degree change. And you have to have a lot more personnel, a lot of resources, a lot of administration, a lot of management, and, specialty operations. I think FDNY, they started, with special ops, and we really have a lot of special operations going on, today.
And I think today a chief has to be more of a politician than he used to have to be.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I never really liked having to go to the city manager's office or the county manager or, the political base. When we were needing equipment and we were needing procedural changes and needed approvals, but it's something that you really have to do. And it's a subject that needs to be taught in fire science classes, I believe, fire administrative classes, college level, and also take specialty courses on how to deal with the political structure in your community. I saw it from 4 different perspectives of political based. The Mass Port Authority was a semi-quasi-state political group, and we had, there was a board of directors, there that ran that. And also I was blessed to work in the municipal setting as a municipal fire chief, and then also the chief of the State Fire Academy in training. And that was state operation, then in a county department at Henry County in Henry County, Georgia, as chief of training there, a large department. So I really got the gamut. There's not many people that I've spoken to that got themselves into those aspects of administrative and political base. So I learned a lot, and I really wanted to touch on, I wanted to share some of those things that I experienced in those operations, because they did change from organization to organization for sure.
When I read the stuff from the old days, from the 70s and the early 80s, I think about those internet memes that show the firefighters on the tailboard, and they'll say things like, "I was a firefighter back when it was fun before they screwed it all up."
That's crazy, right? Yeah, it's crazy talk, because, back then, that was what we did. You rode the tail step. The hydrant man would catch the hydrant, but he'd be riding to the call on the back step. And you're supposed to hook in if you were doing that, but most of the time, guys didn't. So we had people falling off trucks back then, and it was, really unsafe. So we've done a lot to provide enhanced safety for our people and I talked about the turnout gear, everything from the basics, from the tools, equipment, the gear, the operational procedures, to training. It's a 360-degree unit as a firefighter, and you have to give, as a manager, as a leader, from company officer all the way up to the chief's office, you have to provide the ultimate, the best equipment and resources, to keep you people safe and effective on the job. You don't have to spend millions and millions of dollars. Sometimes you do because of the size of the department, but if you're going to spend money, you want to capitalize on the best safety equipment that you can for your personnel. So, so enhancement of safety, I think, has been a predominant thing that we need to continue to go forward with all the needs that we have on the specialty jobs that we go to, hazmat and the such.
Are we too safe these days? Are firefighters too worried about their own safety and not worried enough about the victims?
I think that's a tough question to answer, because every call that we go on, although they may be similar, like a fire structure call, a typical, single family home structure versus a high-rise structure fire, a warehouse fire, are we, excuse me, are we making entry when we shouldn't? Are we not making entry when we should? And those are operational decisions that the company officer in command has to make when they roll up and they do a 360, and they have to determine, what the load is and what the safety factor is, and victims that are, someone's trapped inside, we're going to launch our interior attack and go in for rescue as long as we're set up for it. I think we went through a period of time where we would just kick a door and one guy would go in and try to, do the best he could to rescue whoever was maybe trapped, and then end up losing that guy. So,
right.
It's depends on where you are too. I mean, as rural sector operations, there's limited water supply. There's not many hydrants, out in the rural sector, versus an urban or suburban sector where you've got, hydrants every, 500 feet. So you can roll in and you have more personnel, more equipment. So, the response times are longer in the rural communities. So everything has to be taken into account. But I think overall, our firefighters and emergency personnel do a great job. And the fact that in the last numbers that I saw from a poll that was taken was 77 or 79% of our fire service in the United States is volunteer.
Yeah.
And that can be confirmed, but that's roughly the numbers. So people can't, that's one of the things I talk with just anybody that I'm talking with that has an interest in the fire service. They'll say, how many firefighters, actually are there? And I say, well, there's many, but they're not all full-time career, firefighters. They're not all manned stations. And I'll tell them a number of volunteers, and they'll go, are you kidding? That's unbelievable. And I'll go, no, that's the truth. People are serving their communities, and a large number are volunteer.
Well, I think a lot of people that are covered by volunteer departments don't even realize that they are volunteer.
Right, exactly.
So they want a 3-minute response time, and they don't realize that they're not going to get that because it's not realistic for where they live. Absolutely true. 3 to 5 minutes has been our standard, response times, is trying to hit those numbers, but that's more of a suburban, urban, where you have stations placed a lot closer to each other, to cover those circle areas. And they're manned 24/7. Exactly. And if you're living in a small town that's on call, then call has to go out, personnel have to respond to the station, get in their gear, get the trucks going, get on the truck and get out the door, and the development of fire and the structure fire is going to take place, within those 5 minutes. I mean, it's going to be consumed. Yeah. The community doesn't have the money to substantiate having a full-time department, which I believe, and I wrote in the book in one section about, staffing, is to have, if you can't man your police, fire, and EMS 24/7, have somebody being able to respond when somebody calls 911, there's something wrong. And the priority has to be that before you start doing anything else. So I don't know who, in the political structure has to address those issues, but it has to be addressed. But it has to be addressed because it's been going on forever. It's been going on forever. And the big cities and the suburban cities, they're still in battle with their political groups, mayors and commissioners and council and everything, to increase their budget load, and because typically we're not a revenue generating operation like some of the other departments are, then you get that thrown back at you, which I talked about in detail too. Yeah, I sense your frustration with this, but are you ever surprised by how short-sighted some of these communities can be?
I'm amazed at how they are, because we hear from them when something may go wrong, or somebody, unfortunately gets hurt at a fire or loses their life. And then all the questions come out because the legal staff, the legal counsel comes out and they start investigating. They want to know, well, how many people were on duty, how many pieces of equipment, what was the response times? It all goes back to meeting those basic response needs. And then that gets passed over, something happens, somebody gets litigated, they pay out the fines or the, damages, and then we go on and it's the same thing the next day,
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes. I mean, when you say 200 years of tradition unimpeded by progress, in one aspect, that has stayed the same. In the other aspect of training personnel, we've enhanced all of that. We've enhanced our equipment. We've enhanced our operational knowledge and different types of special hazards. But from the staffing and resources of personnel and equipment, it's still back antiquated. It's, to me, I mean, everything you read and everything you hear is still, operating that same way. And I don't understand it, why politicians wouldn't want to have their emergency response teams fully resourced in all aspects. That's the first thing. So when you get on the scene, you have 2 in and 2 out rules. But if you only have one guy on a truck, bringing a truck to the fire, you got to wait till 4 trucks are on scene,
Yeah.
It puts the firefighter in jeopardy in many ways, in the safety, because who is a trained firefighter is going to roll up and not want to go in and rescue somebody that's trapped in a trailer fire, say, a single wide, double wide, or a single home. You're not going to want to sit out front and watch the thing burn, waiting for another engine with other personnel to come. It's just, to me, it just doesn't make any sense in the 21st century,
Yeah.
So it just seemed like we had more personnel back then, in the 70s, 60s, 70s than we do now, because I think we had so many jobs to do that we're spread so thin. EMS is a major response category, and now we have all the hazmat. You've got biochem, you've got terrorism, anti-terrorism aspects, you've got bombings, you've got shootings, you've got mass casualty. I mean, on and on. That's why when I mentioned some of those things, that our call volume has changed in the different configurations of the calls that we go to, and what we need to actually address those calls. Now, I'm just hoping that at some point that the powers to be that distribute and approve budgets will see the absolute needs, even though we've had catastrophic events like 9/11. I mean, I dedicated the book to those serving, the 343 that we lost. That was an eye-opener. That was an awakening for the fire service. I think we get a little complacent, and then something major happens, and then we deal with it, and then we get a little bit complacent again. But nowadays, it just seems like we're constantly being bombarded with terroristic, domestic and foreign. So I pray every single day for every firefighter in our country and in the world, because I know it's a difficult job. It's not just for anybody.
So this book, like I said earlier, this book covers a lot of ground. What was the most fun part for you to write?
Reaching back on some of the calls that I was able to respond to, that I was blessed to be on, and all of the lessons learned. In this field, you really can't gain the experience unless you do it. Practicing all of your skill sets that you train on every single day. I was blessed. I got my fire science degree before I got on the job, which was, I had the theory of, fire protection and safety technology. I had my EMT certification, and I was fireboat captain documentation, so I could, pilot the fireboat. So I had multiple facet of training, but I think just overall, reminiscing about the types of calls that we went on and some of the events that took place and some of the opportunities that were allowed me personally and us as a group from different departments that I served with.
Yeah, you've got a great little story in there about standing on top of a DC-10 that's covered with firefighting foam and hoping you didn't fall off.
Yeah, that was a great one. That American TC-10 had popped the engine, had a fan blade rupture, and caught the number 2 on fire. And it pulled off on one of the parallel runways and deployed the chutes. And we rolled in, and with crash fire rescue, you can pump and roll at the same time. So you're delivering 1,200 gallons per minute foam through a turret, and you have 4 or 5 trucks, and that thing was covered in no time. But it still was fire inside the engine cowling, so we had to get up in there and knock that thing down with the purple K line, and then get up on the exhaust side we had latitude, Boston's latitude up there, so I got up there with somebody else, and we made sure that thing was knocked down. And so, yeah, there was a lot of opportunities of uniqueness, I guess, piloting with the fireboat and responding with the boat and Marine Division, and of course all the EMT calls, and my liaison with various organizations when the president and vice president arrivals. And we actually housed the motorcade in the fire station at Logan when we had President Bush and Reagan coming in. So, and I used to liaison with them, the Secret Service and the NTSB, FAA, and those groups, Coast Guard and all that. So when I'm thinking back of all of the opportunities that God had blessed me with, and took me through so much in my career and then in my life in general, I'm just so fortunate and blessed to have been able to do the things that I was able to do and help other people along the way.
All right, the book is Firefighting in the 21st Century. Stan Tarnowski, thanks for joining me back on Code 3 again. It was good to talk to you.
Thanks, Scott. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and I really appreciate the time that you spend with me and sharing, our combined experiences on the job and off the job. And we really want to say thank you for your dedication to the fire service and journalism and all that you do, have done, and what you continue to do for us.
And we put some more information about how to order the Chief's latest book on our website at code3podcast.com/Stan. Check it out. All right, that's it. That's all for this edition of Code 3. I'd love to hear what you think of the show. Just email me, scott@code3podcast.com, or go to the website, code3podcast.com, and click on the contact link. Thank you for listening. I'll be back next time with more, and I hope you'll join me then. I'm Scott Orr, and until then, stay safe.
To contact us, get more information on today's show, or to subscribe to the podcast, go to code3podcast.com.